Hello everyone. Ventilation in obese patients is a challenge for the anesthesiologist. Today, I, Dr. Neeru Luthra, and my postgraduate student, Dr. Gyan Singh, will be discussing briefly about our study, Comparison of Nasal and Face Mask Ventilation in Obese Adults, published in the March issue of the Indian Journal of Anesthesia. The main objective of our study was to evaluate the ventilatory effectiveness of nasal mask ventilation with face mask ventilation during induction of anesthesia, and for this, we included obese adults undergoing elective surgery. Nasal mask ventilation has been successfully used to provide CPAP in patients with obstructive sleep apnea. Expecting similar benefits, we did this study. Patients were pre oxygenated with 100% oxygen using a tightly held face mask. After induction of anesthesia and paralysis, the ventilation was done depending on the group allocation. In the face mask group, the lower end of the mask was kept just below the lower lip, thus covering both the nose and the mouth using a two-handed CE grip technique. In the nasal mask group, the lower end of the mask rested just above the upper lip, thus covering only the nose using a two-handed CE grip technique. Practically, we did not face any difficulty while maintaining a tight seal.
The primary focus of our study was on expired tidal volume, while air leak, peak inspiratory pressure, plateau pressure, oxygen saturation, and end-tidal carbon dioxide were the secondary outcomes. Nasal mask ventilation showed distinct advantages with a higher expired tidal volume and reduced air leaks. Additionally, it resulted in lesser airway pressure indicated by decreased peak pressure. This is of clinical significance as possibility of gastric insufflation is reduced and thus reducing the risk of aspiration. Also, the likelihood of barotrauma is reduced. In a similar study in relentless patients, Kapoor et al. Demonstrated that nasal mask ventilation achieved greater tidal volume despite slightly elevated airway pressures.
Although nasal mask ventilation has been found to be a safe and effective technique from our study, however, as this was performed in a controlled environment in the operating rooms and done by experienced operators, we need further research before we can safely translate this for emergency procedures and by novice providers. Also, we need more data for patients with higher BMIs as the mean BMI of our study participants was 30. Thank you so much.